Fantastic. Well, I'm very excited to be here today, not only being in San Francisco, but also being around and about the Lean Startup Conference here 2012. For those of you who didn't come last night to the Ignite speaker session, I, in fact, thought that was very engaging, and what I thought was most interesting was the fact of the diversity of the backgrounds in various sectors of the companies in which lean principles are being applied. All right, thank you. And so I want to add to that list. As mentioned, my name is Tendai Charasika. I'm from Louisville, Kentucky. I work for an organization in Louisville called Greater Louisville, Inc. It is, in fact, a chamber of commerce as well as an economic development organization. And we are leveraging lean principles to help accelerate companies from idea to hopefully becoming fast growth companies. I also work for a state organization called the Kentucky Innovation Network, and I'm a business coach in the community where I work with all ages and stages of companies, from high school students and college students and others out in the community, to help pull and push their companies forward. So one of the things that I have found is that we are essentially in the front line of entrepreneurship in Louisville, Kentucky. We're in the trenches day in and day out, working with hundreds of companies, again, from all different stages and sectors. And what I found is that the lean principles really help us to manage entrepreneurships to hit successive milestones in their development. And it helps guide them as they go along the pathway of testing and validating their assumptions, and hopefully with the end goal being that they're building better startups or not wasting a lot of time doing so. And so you can imagine, in working with so many companies, one of the first questions I get asked numerous times is, what's sort of the one commonality that you see and you observe, whether it's across the state or in the region or whoever, that these early stage companies go through? And without a doubt, the thing that gets most early stage entrepreneurs and makes them very uncomfortable is their, we'll say, lack of passion of being able to get out of the building. Their inability and their lack of desire to actually want to go out and talk to people to get early feedback around validating their assumptions one-on-one. And so I can imagine, as an entrepreneur myself and as many entrepreneurs in this room, maybe you're getting a little bit uncomfortable right now as well, thinking about taking that idea you have and sharing that with other people who don't fall within your natural realm of friends and family. So I think this really stems from two areas, right? I think the first one is sort of that fear of rejection, right? So no one wants to be told that their baby, this idea that they've worked on for so long and that they're so passionate about, is in fact ugly, right? And so there's a whole host of other things that come along with that. But I also believe, on a more tactical level, that it really comes down to the fact that some entrepreneurs literally don't know how to get out of the building. Literally. So you can ask them, how are you getting out of the building? How are you talking to people? And they really can't tell you. Or there's some entrepreneurs who have leverage getting out of the building, but there's multiple ways and combinations by which you can continue to get out of the building and solicit that feedback. So what we risk by not getting out of the building is obviously the opportunity cost around pursuing your next best idea. Wouldn't you rather learn quickly and upfront that maybe the idea you think is so good, and in fact, there's not a customer demand for it, or not a customer who's going to want it or pay for it? I would. We also waste a lot of time. We waste our time and we waste other people's time. But I also think, most importantly, what we miss out on is the opportunity to learn what customers want and what they'll pay for. We miss out on the opportunity to iterate our products and make them better and something worth pursuing. So over the next few minutes, I have 10 pragmatic ways for folks to get out of the building. And what you'll notice here is that some folks may have already employed some of these ways. Hopefully they're new, or hopefully what you'll look at is an opportunity to really leverage a combination of these. Now, what I've also found is that getting out of the building and the various ways to do that is about as unique as every entrepreneur in this room. And it's really about creativity. And so I would ask you to add to the list. So hashtag get out of the building and add to our entrepreneurial community so that everyone can understand sort of the way you're thinking about getting out of the building. So the first one here, and in fact, it's really not about how to get out of the building, it's what not to do. So when I sit across the table from other entrepreneurs and I ask them about their business, they can tell you all day about their business model. They can tell you how they're going to make revenue. They can tell you who the competitors are and even the ultimate exit and acquisition. But as soon as you talk about who have you talked to, they say, well, sure, absolutely, I've talked to somebody. Who have you talked to? Well, I've talked to my uncle. I've talked to my brother. I've talked to my father. So the first one is, in fact, don't ask your uncle. Your uncle is synonymous with your mom, dad, brother, girlfriends, friends, anybody that's going to tell you, good job, pat you on the back, because the chances are your first version of your product is not going to be your last. So quickly ahead, on 2 and 3, right, these are probably, for me, the most tangible, tactical ways to really get out and test yourself. These should make you uncomfortable, right, because you're going up and you're getting feedback on that baby of yours. Right? And so what better way than to go out and actually interview potential customers face-to-face to receive that feedback. And if you have a demo, if you have a product, and you can observe the reaction to your idea, right, or watch them behave and interact with your product, there's no better way. I also like 4 and 5 here, put your office where your customers are, or throw a party. This is all about being creative, right? And again, as I mentioned, it's about as unique as you as an entrepreneur and your ability to be creative about getting out of the building. I'll highlight a company that actually puts his office where his customers are, but I also work with companies in Louisville that have actually thrown a party to sort of test out and receive testers for their first minimal viable product. The one I don't think is leveraged enough is talking to experts in the field, and whether that's a professor or an analyst or someone who's studied the market. If you're entering a market that is already developed, there's someone that's done the legwork for you already. Why not leverage what they've found for you? And of course, if you're selling into enterprises, it's always good to find a decision maker. Sure, you want to build a product that the end user is going to enjoy and appreciate, but the decision maker is the one that's going to buy the product, and selling them on the values and the benefits of what you're building is critical. And again, 8 and 9, I know sort of pre-order pages, websites, landing pages, analytics can sometimes get a bad rap because they're not actually getting out in front of people. But I think they're great ways to show demand for the product. And you can find ways by listening to the customer and what they're demanding. And if you have the ability to follow up with them, whether that's email or any other contact information, understanding data, there's no substitution for that. But at the end of the day, it's all about building relationships. So it's important to ask for the introduction. So whether you're asking for an introduction to get in front of a first customer, or you're looking for a mentor, or you're looking for an investor in your company, remember, at the end of the day, it's all about building relationships. So let's see how some of these companies that I work with are putting this into action. So meet Codable. And actually, John and Gretchen are here from Louisville with me today. They're somewhere in here. And they're building, they have built the first version of an app that allows to teach the basics of programming to kids that are typically 5 to 7 years of age, and make it fun and engaging. So when John and Gretchen first came to me, they wanted to leverage our accountability that we apply to our startups and to our entrepreneurs. And so they just had an idea, and what we did was help connect them within the community to get as much feedback as possible on the idea before they started coding and building the app. And even more, we help leverage and make introductions to experts that are in the field around education and how children learn. Throughout that time frame and what they continue to do, they interviewed 25 people face-to-face. So this is parents and children as well. And they actually brought them in, sort of like office hours, and observed the children playing with the app, and also were able to interview the parents. What they found were 2 critical things. One, that children who were a younger demographic didn't have sort of the fine motor skills to play the game. And so they had to change who they were targeting. they were able to talk to the parents and figure out that what was most important to parents was seeing their kids engaged in learning at the same time. And they also learned what parents were willing to pay for. There's no way that John and Gretchen could have done this had they not gotten out of the building and got face-to-face with folks. And so I can tell you, if anybody has an iPad, I'd encourage you to download this app. If you have children, play around with it. Help John and Gretchen either do one of two things: figure out that their app sucks and quit wasting time, or to actually get out there and continue to grow the product. So maybe you think it only applies to tech companies, or, I know there's many out here from different sectors. I can tell you quickly that it also applies to companies that I work with on the other end of the spectrum in food and beverage. So if you meet Ruby Red Tea is building a great tasting, healthy, caffeine-free organic tea in the ready-to-drink market. And Heather Howe and Jeff Stum are great examples of being where the customers are and putting the product, in this case, in the mouth of their customers, who will then voice that to the stores to get the product on the shelves. They leverage product demos better than anybody I've seen. And in fact, they'll go music festivals, store openings, farmer markets to get the feedback with the experts in the field, the folks who love the tea. And so they've done that to their benefit, because over the last 2 years, they've doubled their growth from 2010 to 2012, and they are now have national distribution in the likes of Whole Foods and other store chains across the country. Finally, meet Erin Marshall and the app Over. Over allows you to put beautiful, elegant text on the pictures and memories that you love the most, and do it in a simple way. I don't have time to go through sort of the backdrop of how Erin has experimented his way to Over, but I will tell you this, that the story is Erin doesn't put his office in his basement or his apartment. He doesn't sit in an office building. He actually sits in a coffee shop in a cool part of town in Louisville, Kentucky called Bardstown Road, in a coffee shop called Quills. And those are the customers by which he can approach each and every single day. He's gone from 5,000 initial downloads in 3 days to now he's averaging over 30,000 new downloads every day. So check out Over if you haven't already. So let me leave you with this. It's a quote by Ries. It's one that I live by and I believe in totally. Is that the goal of the startup is to find the right thing to build. And that thing is what customers want and what they'll pay for as quickly as possible. There's no way that we can do that if we're sitting behind a desk or sitting in a building somewhere. So remember, get out of the building, add to the hashtag, get out of the building. If you want to follow me, Excellent Tea. And a special shout out to Louisville, Kentucky, EnterpriseCorp, and Bobby Ferrari. Thank you.